is selfish. At the start of the Bulls' last dance season, Scottie Pippen announced he'd be having ankle surgery to repair a ruptured tendon. Scottie was my client at the time, and we discussed whether he should have the surgery during the summer before that 97-98 season so he could be ready to play when the season opened. But Scottie opted to wait, in part because he didn't want to deal with it over the summer, and also because he was unhappy with his contract, which made him the 6th highest player on the Bulls and the 122nd highest paid in the league that season. Against the advice of his own agents, as well as Bulls owner, Scottie had agreed to a contract extension that was well below his value because he wanted the security of a long-term deal, and now he was unhappy about it. He figured they weren't paying him enough to rush back. If you watched The Last Dance, you may recall that the team had already been told 97-98 would be the end of their run. Coach Phil Jackson wouldn't be asked to return, especially because of a rift between him and GM Jerry Krause, and because some of the players, including Scottie, couldn't be resigned. So the Bulls' second greatest player decided to have the surgery at the start of the season and missed the first 35 games. In one of the more controversial moments in The Last Dance, Michael referred to teammate Scottie Pippen as selfish. Scottie was wrong in that scenario, Jordan said. He could have got his surgery done as soon as the previous season was over and was ready for the next season. What Scottie was trying to do was force management to change his contract. Jerry wasn't going to do that. So now I got to start the season knowing that Scottie wasn't going to be around. I felt like Scottie was being selfish, worrying about himself as opposed to what his word was to the organization as well as the team. But not all of our teammates felt that way. Everyone respected Scottie so much, said Steve Kerr. We felt his frustration. He probably should have been the second highest paid guy in the NBA, so we all felt for him. Nobody resented him for having the surgery. We all understood. Let's give him his space, and he's going to be there for the second stretch of the season for us. The fallout from that episode was immediate. Some felt Scottie had been selfish for putting his needs ahead of the team, but many felt Michael was selfish for blasting a teammate who'd been by his side all the way and whom he called the greatest teammate I ever had. You tell me, selfish, both, neither? I don't want you to answer yet. Read a little further and we'll come back to it. Start here. What's your definition of selfish? I'll give you a few options and you can add your own. Egocentric, narcissist, self-centered, self-absorbed, vain, conceited, asshole. If you've been called any or all of those things, which is likely if you're working on the balance issue we just discussed, it probably wasn't meant as a compliment and you were probably offended. Winning would like you to just say thank you and keep doing whatever you were doing. The fact is, winning requires selfishness. Winners don't care what you think. They know how to say no and feel good about it. They have no problem ending a business meeting after 90 seconds because they've heard enough. They don't pretend to like an idea just to make others feel good. They never commit to anything unless they see a benefit to themselves or their goals. Their time and agenda is their top priority, and they don't reach out to others unless they need to, which they rarely do. Selfish? Probably. Effective? They let their results speak for themselves. Winners don't need to be liked. They just need those results, and if they achieve them, they don't regret being whatever you consider selfish. Which leads me back to Scottie. Did I agree with his decision? I would have preferred he'd been ready to start the season with the rest of the team, but he did what he felt was right for himself. He knew the ramifications of his actions. He knew MJ would be unhappy with him, and he was willing to accept that. Selfishness requires you to stand by your choices and be courageous about the backlash. And when he returned to the team, he made sure he was ready to play. He faced his teammates, and they all got back to work. He started every game for the rest of the season, averaging 37.5 minutes and 19.1 points per game. End result, the 6th ring. As for MJ, there was no way he was going to pretend to be fine with Scottie's decision. If Michael thinks you're wrong, he has no problem holding you accountable. But he knew what ultimately mattered, and he never failed to credit Scottie with much of his own success. The first person he mentioned in his Hall of Fame speech, "You never just saw me, you saw Scottie Pippen." Scottie knew he'd be judged for his decision. MJ knew he'd be judged for his response. Neither one cared. When The Last Dance was released and people got to see the true nature of MJ's relationship with teammates and other players around the league, many were quick to point out how harsh and abusive he could be. sometimes good-naturedly, sometimes not. Of course, many of the players pointing out the harshness had been on the receiving end, but many others were critical of the way MJ pressured those who didn't play up to his standards, and how he made it clear there was only one way to play with him, his way, the way he had earned 6 championships. Results mattered. You might be reading this and thinking, that's just not me. Maybe not, but I'd be willing to wager if you really looked deeper, you'll see the things you do for yourself, maybe without even thinking about it, that others might consider selfish. It's in all of us. When you truly want the end result, those things are no longer a choice, they're a necessity. I know many psychologists and experts talk about the positive benefits of being supportive and positive and tolerant, as opposed to being tough, strict, harsh, or critical. If that softer approach has worked for you, I mean with measurable results, not just something that makes you the popular team leader, then keep doing what you're doing. Michael knew one way and it worked, not just for himself, but for everyone else around him. If that made him selfish, he'd gladly show you his 6 rings and say, "You're welcome." Why is it so wrong to be considered selfish? The word self literally relates to your identity with your individuality. Self defines who you are. There are books, songs, t-shirts, posters, and 4 billion Facebook posts telling you to love yourself, find yourself, take care of yourself, be yourself. If you're going all in on yourself, wouldn't that make you selfish? Like that's a bad thing? It's not a bad thing, and it's essential if you're going to win. Now let's be clear on one thing before you make a huge mistake. There's a difference between selfish winners and selfish losers. A selfish loser takes from everyone, doesn't know how to use what he's taken, and no one benefits, including the loser. Example, a player who becomes a distraction to the team, plays badly, and blames everyone else. Example, a business owner who pays himself well but neglects the business, pays employees less than their value so they have no incentive to produce, blames the employees for weak performance, and the business fails. Example, parents who blow off their kids' events because they're tired, bored, or just don't want to be bothered. We're not going for that kind of selfish. We're talking about the ability to focus on yourself for all the right reasons. Selfish winners give themselves so they can ultimately give to others. They give themselves confidence, courage, clarity. They give themselves time and space and focus. They give themselves the freedom to win. They know when to put themselves first, and they don't feel bad about that because their success fuels everyone around them. Some of the most charitable people in the world, Warren Buffett, Bill and Melinda Gates, and the Walton family, are able to give billions to the causes they support because of decades of selfish hard work and commitment. Tiger Woods' entire upbringing was centered around his parents' total, and some would say selfish, focus on Tiger's career. Earl Woods created a lifestyle for themselves and their son that allowed the family to be completely and selfishly devoted to his golf and academic education and massive success. They gave everything they had for him because they believed in the outcome. He was their one and only priority. Why is it so difficult to prioritize yourself? And why do others get so agitated when you do? When you're doing the things everyone approves of, eating, sleeping, exercising, socializing, meditating, no one would call you selfish. They can relate to those things because they're, normal. But start doing things no one else is doing, things they don't approve of or understand, and you're going to hear about it. So we come up with cute ways to normalize our need to put ourselves first. The bucket list, the man cave, me time, girls' night out, anything to avoid calling it what it really is, time and space that is all about you. I'm talking to everyone who says, I have no time for myself. Yes, you do. You've just chosen to spend it on something else. You can't get to the gym. You can't start the new project. You can't take your career to the next level. You can't spend a day doing absolutely nothing. Why? I have no time for myself. I have too much to do. I made a promise to someone. I can't say no. Fact, you can't help all those other people until you can first help yourself. You must get uncomfortable with that. You can't create your own wins without prioritizing your own goals and dreams. It's not selfish to use that no list and the IDGAF muscle we talked about in our discussion on balance. It's crucial to your success. Selfishness allows you to limit who gets into your inner circle. When you're prioritizing your time and energy, you're going to have to make tough choices about who to include in those priorities. Your family, your friends, people who want to tell you what's best for you, people who tell you what you want to hear. If you're surrounded by others who keep reminding you they never see you, you're too busy, you need to relax, it's probably because you have too many friends and not enough allies. Allies understand what you need and what you're fighting for, and without a doubt they'll fight with you. Friends sometimes feel threatened by your success. Allies understand that your success doesn't detract from theirs. But selfishness comes with serious responsibility. If you're going to put yourself first, there has to be an outcome and result that makes it all worthwhile. Did you win? Did your selfishness allow you to create something positive? Did it move you further along to where you need to be? Did it benefit you in a way that made you feel good about your decision, even if no one else agreed with you? Are you willing to pay for that price? Part of that price, perhaps the most significant part, is embracing the reality that you'll often make decisions and take actions that will make other people unhappy. And eventually, you'll learn not to care. That's how you distance yourself from everything and everyone who stands between you and winning. You learn to separate. But separation isn't about moving away from others. It's about moving away from yourself, changing your own limiting beliefs and habits, your own insecurities and fears, and creating new expectations and values. It's about putting new demands on yourself and shutting out the noise that prevents you from acting on them. Separation is about creating new levels in everything you do. From your philosophies and strategies to your mental approach to excellence, you don't need to be as good as everyone else. You need to be better. Separation is power. Power over your decisions. Power to move from where you are to where you want to be. Power to stop living a story that someone else has written for you. Power to elevate yourself. Separation is also freedom. When you've earned the ability to move away from your average and typical and normal, you've also earned the right to laugh when someone tells you, stay in your lane. You have no lane. The whole road is open and it all belongs to you. You're free to decide, act, choose. Separation is all about you and what you really want and need. It's that moment before you do something new and bold and terrifying when it would be so easy to go back to safety, but you know what safety will cost you. So you take the leap knowing you can't stay where you are any longer. It's not easy and it won't be guilt-free. If you've ever had to break away from your family or friends, if you've left your team to join another team, if you've ever gone against tradition or custom, you already know this. Others won't like it, and they'll let you know. You'll have to brace yourself for the storm that goes along with disappointing people who feel they should have a voice in all your decisions. You'll have to decide whether you need the outcome more than you need their approval. So when they say, are you crazy? You must be prepared to say, yes, I am, thank you. Because if you're committed to winning, if you're determined to achieve greatness, you gotta have some crazy in you. You need to have a vision and dream that others can't even comprehend. You have to be okay with that. Your results will explain everything. I know mine did. I'm the youngest son of Indian parents who brought our family to the United States when I was 4. Both of my parents work in the medical field, and I was raised to understand that I had 2 choices for a career. I could be a doctor, or I could be a doctor. I chose neither. I wanted to work with professional athletes. You're going to what? My parents grieved. I'm going to work with professional athletes, but to make them happy, because I genuinely wanted to make them happy. I just didn't want to be a doctor. I agreed to apply for medical school, and I prayed I wouldn't get in. I got in, which led to one of the most difficult, selfish moments of my life, telling my parents I wasn't going to medical school and wasn't going to be a doctor. To say that they were disappointed would be a wild understatement. Even though I went on to get my master's degree in exercise science and managed to have a decent career doing exactly what I said I would do, work with professional athletes, but I was blessed with parents who loved and supported me even though they disagreed with my decision. Although even after all my success with MJ and Kobe and Wade and others, they'd still casually mention the upside of a real job with benefits and a 401k. Was I selfish? I'll let you decide. I made a choice for myself, separated from my family's expectations, and devoted my life to the results. I hope you have the opportunity to be just as selfish someday. Most of what I've done in my career has been about separation. When I started training MJ in 1989, it was rare for trainers to work directly with pro athletes. Trainers typically worked for the teams, which is how they had access to the players. But MJ wanted separation from the Bulls' standard training procedures, which was why he hired me. He wanted a program developed for his unique needs. So when the team tried to tell me how to train him, I was polite but kept my distance. And I realized to be effective for my client and all the clients who'd follow, I need to train to remain the same way. To this day, I've never been employed by a team. I consult for teams, I collaborate with teams, but my work has always been for individual athlete. I need that defined separation to do my job effectively. But separation doesn't mean you cut all ties and refuse to cooperate. Collaboration and cooperation are essential to my business and probably in yours too. I've worked with many corporate groups who struggle with a fuck those guys attitude within the business where different teams and department wage war on each other's procedures and results. Some believe it creates a healthy competitive environment and a badass mentality that drives people to raise the bar on their performance. But if you've ever worked in such a culture, you know it rarely turns out that way. For me to be effective in my business, I need to know that everyone involved with my client is on the same page, and they need to know that as well. That means respectful communication with team personnel, from the president and GM to the training staff and other professionals involved in our shared outcome. You need him to come in this weight. You want to address this issues in his game. How do you plan to use him this season? I got it. We'll keep in touch. I'm always open and cooperative, which has earned me tremendous trust from teams who are customary wary of outsiders. I also separate when it comes to talking my clients' progress and workouts. I rarely post video or picture of my work with athletes, and I rarely talk about what we're doing. I know it's standard now for trainers to use social media to show off their clients, not only in the gym, but in the clubs, on the golf courses, at the pool, on vacation. I go the other way. Here's the extent of my social media as it relates to my athletes. If you're relevant to my client, immediate family, agent, team personnel, health professional, and you have his or her permission, I'm happy to send you video and pictures. You have full access to whatever we're doing. Django. Or if my clients want to post our workout in their social media, or they ask me to post something, that's up to them. Otherwise, I need to keep our work separate from the entertainment and media aspect of the business and protect my clients from people who don't need to be in the business. One of the reasons I'm hired to work with corporate leaders and business owners and celebrities is because I value privacy and discretion. I won't talk to the media about what we're doing. I'm not going to screenshot their text to post on social media. I don't walk into meetings with a camera crew following me around. Why does any of that matter? Because winning insists on being your sole priority, and that requires your full attention, your total focus, and the unlimited ability to invest in your results. To me, posting your workouts on social media isn't the kind of investment that delivers results. It gets attention, but not results. And if I do my job, and if my clients do theirs, the end results speak for themselves. Other people can talk about them, and we never post a thing. Winning is an investment. It's the result of making selfish choices that empower your goals, separate you from limitations and insecurities, and create distance between where you've been and where you want to go. Those things don't happen accidentally. They happen when you make the decision to prioritize your ambitions and your results. It's the single greatest investment you can make in your life, and until you're ready to commit to that, you can't even think about winning. If you know you should be getting better results, and you believe you're worth the commitment to get those results, it's time to be selfish and invest. For some, that means allocating financial resources. For others, it's about education and learning. It might be a decision to change jobs or lose weight or quit smoking or work on a relationship. It can mean time and money or a shift in the way you think. That's for you to determine. But whatever that investment requires, make it, because no one is going to make it for you. How can you expect others to believe in you when you won't believe in yourself? People hesitate to invest in themselves for many reasons. It feels egotistical. They don't think they're worth it. They believe they'll fail. They think others will judge them. Maybe it's a waste of money. Can I afford to do this? They wonder. My question to them, can you afford not to? If you own a successful business that requires constant travel to multiple locations, is it really a luxury to invest it in a corporate jet so you can use your time and resources more effectively? Or if you can't afford the jet, is it wasteful to join an airport lounge or fly first class so you have some room to work while you travel? If your business involves driving colleagues to look at potential real estate investment, is it flashy to invest in a nice car so your passengers are comfortable? If you're working remotely and conducting all your meetings and conferences online, shouldn't you consider spending some money on quality equipment that allows you to look and sound professional? I'm always amazed when media report on superstar athletes who spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or more on their training and health as if it's this crazy luxury. There's a chef and a masseuse. He's got a whole gym and a basketball court in the house. Those aren't luxuries. Those are business partners. You're talking about athletes with 8 or 9-figure incomes. You don't think they should invest 1% of what they make to make sure they're strong and healthy, to prolong their career so they can keep making that kind of money that allows them to spend that kind of money? But let's be clear on this. It's not about how much money is being spent. The financial investment is worthless if you're not also investing your time and effort in the end result. How many times have you walked away from the opportunity to get better in some way when you knew what you had to do but didn't do it? How often have you tried reinventing yourself instead of investing in who you already are? I hear from so many young people who want to get into the training business and work with the pros. They want to know how to make that happen, like there's a secret code that will give them access. I have only one answer. Regardless of whether you want to work with athletes or design skyscrapers or discover a planet, invest in your education and skills. There are no shortcuts. There's no fast track. Michael Jordan hired me because I presented him with a program that intrigued him, and then I backed it up with results. The years I spent investing in myself, learning, experimenting, developing a plan that would someday change the way athletes trained, allowed that to happen. It's up to you to make that happen for yourself. If your family isn't supportive, if they think you're going to fail, if they're telling you it's too hard and too much and you're making the biggest mistake of your life, you can either agree and live the life they've chosen for you, or you can take responsibility for yourself and find a way to live the life you want. You already know what I do. I know there are many highly successful people who didn't go to college and strongly believe you don't need college either. They'll tell you it's a waste of money, you can be successful without it. They did it and so can you. I strongly disagree. It worked for them, that's great, but what about all the unsuccessful people who didn't go to college? Are you positive opting out of that experience will still allow you to achieve anything you want now and in the future? What's the downside to getting the education, challenging yourself to finish something? You don't have to go big into a 4-year institution, but get something that separates you from the others, that shows you're elevated beyond the pack. Winning requires a combination of street education, formal education, common sense, which is not always that common, and uncommon sense, because winning is definitely uncommon. They can take everything from you, your house, your money, clothes, cars, jets, but the one thing they can't take is your education and what you've learned. And the one thing you can count on if you do indeed lose everything is that education. Invest in yourself because you're worth it. It's not selfish to want more. It's necessary to survive the hell of winning. Winning takes you to hell, and if you quit, that's where you'll stay. Late one night in 2007, Kobe Bryant called Michael Jordan for advice. His knees were killing him, he said. He'd already played 10 seasons in the league and believed he could play 10 more, but he wasn't sure how much longer he could withstand the physical toll. He didn't know how much more those knees could give him. MJ understood. Call Grover, he said. He'll take care of you. He was already retired, and after 15 years with me, he was more than happy to see me showing up at someone else's door at 5 a.m. He shared with Kobe some of what he'd done together and why he thought I was the answer Kobe was looking for. He's the biggest asshole you'll ever meet, said MJ, but he knows this stuff. You really cannot ask for a better compliment from Michael Jordan. Kobe had already won championships in 2000, 2001, and 2002, and was already established as one of the best ever to play the game. But the team had fallen from dynasty to disaster. Shaquille O'Neal was unhappy and demanding a trade, which ultimately sent him to Miami. Coach Phil Jackson left just ahead of being fired and wrote a book that was highly critical of Kobe. The team became mirrored a long, painful rebuilding, and now Kobe was faced with a very real and uncomfortable possibility that three rings would be it for him. By 2007, it had been 5 years since the last championship, and winning was no longer taking Kobe's calls. He could have quit, taken his 3 rings, and said, good enough. He could have given in to his deteriorating knees, played less, and slowed down the clock on his career. Instead, he called me. I cherish being the last call someone makes where nothing else is working. That's winning to me. The first time I put him through a workout, he looked at me after an hour, dripping with sweat, and asked what we got left. I told him the road to paradise starts in hell. Kobe had been to paradise, and he'd lived through hell, and had no problem going back and forth between the two. Our work together wasn't easy, and he didn't ask for it to be easy. We had to change his body without changing his game, and he understood that everything we did would be new and different for him, from his exercises and training regimen to his sleep schedule and diet. Everyone who worked with him, from the team staff to the elite practitioners, all knew the challenge. We were going to a new level. Winning only gives you another win if you fight for it with greater obsession than you fought with the first time. The work we did definitely qualified as hell. Not because it was brutally long or unnecessarily punishing, I don't believe in that, but because we had a serious goal that requested serious detail. Other teammates and players in the offseason saw what we were doing and asked to join. They never came back a second time. For example, I'd have them hold a deep lunge position with his back leg straight as possible and the knee as close to the ground as possible without touching it, while practicing the perfect shooting form with a basketball for 5 minutes on each leg. Try it. You'll hear Winning laughing somewhere in the distance. Sometimes I would make a space 16 feet wide, 15 feet long, and mark off an area that replicated the NBA paint. Our workouts were done in that small space. I'd have him pivot, turns, jump, stop, go in every direction and at every speed, with and without a ball. Then I'd ask him what movements made him feel pain. I needed to know if he felt discomfort right away, after 2 or 3 steps, when he stopped, started, jumped, or landed, every detail. We'd identify it, address it, and work to make that area pain-free. Then we move on to another movement and work to make that pain-free as well. And so on every day. He never hesitated, never skipped a workout, never backed away from a difficult challenge. When people talk about Kobe's greatness, they often say he put in the work. True, but they're missing the point. Players like MJ and Kobe didn't just work, they constantly and consistently elevated the work, because to get out of hell, you have to elevate everything. They never stayed with what got them there. They were always adding pieces that would take them higher. They understood that if you keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. So to get better, they had to put in new work, different work. If you don't evolve, you don't find new ways to challenge yourself. You're a BlackBerry in a world of iPhones. Everyone else keeps improving and you're still running the old tired software. Kobe and I shared the same obsessions, prolonging his career, bringing him back to full strength, not just as good as he was, but better than ever, and of course, winning. By 2009, Kobe had his next win, and another in 2010. A reporter asked him in 2009 finals how he was feeling. "I feel great," he said. "This is the best I've felt this late in the season my whole career." A win for me, to see him healthy, strong, and back in winning's elite club. Welcome back to paradise. But the road to paradise is a two-way street, and just as quickly as you travel to the top, you can slide right back down. In fact, you can pretty much count on it. Winning doesn't let you hang around. It meets you at the parade, cheers you the loudest when you get the trophy, and then escorts you out to the parking lot, where the bus that brought you has a new sign with its next destination, hell. It would be 10 years before the Lakers returned to the finals again. People think of winning as this gorgeous, magnificent triumph that solves everything, and it does for a moment, but stay in that moment too long, and winning will make sure you never have that moment again. It's a never-ending cycle, not a one-way trip. You want to win? Start at the bottom and work your way up. Congrats, you won. You want to feel that again? Go back to the bottom and work your way up. Congrats, you won. You want to feel that way again? Go back to the bottom and right, you get it. And even when you get to the top, winning expects you to carry a piece of hell with you, so you never forget where you came from, and never forget you can be sent back there at any moment. Winning is a painkiller for the side effects of hell. The crushing mental and physical pressure that ruined relationships, the judgmental friends, the long hours, the relentless work, they can all be alleviated by success. Everything you want for yourself, satisfaction, pride, money, fame, glory, security, can all be yours with a powerful and successful dose of winning. But here's the message of the warning label. Winning is a drug that requires a more powerful dose every time you take it. With every win, you learn more, you experience more, and you know what can go wrong, and you know how you have to prepare for the return trip to the top. So that dosage has to steadily become more potent to work. You can't just take it in small amounts, you have to be addicted. MJ understood this better than most, as well as the essential return to hell. It's one of the things that made him great. Early in his career, he knew the hell of being physically beaten on the court by Detroit Pistons. He knew the hell of building up his body until he was so strong he no longer had to take the abuse. He was in the league 7 seasons, yes, 7, before finally getting to paradise for the first of the 6 dances with winning. Then, back to hell. His father was murdered. The media and public scrutiny of Michael's life were out of control, and in 1993, he decided to walk away from the NBA to chase another dream. He wanted to play baseball. For 2 seasons, he played in 127 minor league games, rode minor league buses, and was working his way up to the majors when MLB players went on strike in 94 and 95. He was asked to cross the picket line and continue playing. He refused and decided it was time to go back to his first love, basketball. He wanted to win again. When he returned to the NBA midseason in 95, we had 2 months to get him ready for playoffs. Baseball had conditioned his body to move and perform in an entirely different way, and we had a relatively short period of time to establish his basketball body. It wasn't enough. The Bulls lost to the Orlando Magic in 95 playoffs, and many believe that the real MJ was done. You can't take off 2 years and return the same way. It's over. Show me, said winning. Watch me, said MJ. On the night the Bulls lost to the Magic, we sat in the darkened arena after everyone had left. There wasn't a lot to say, but the silence said it all. And when he was finally ready to go, I figured it was the last time I'd see him for a while. He usually took time off at the end of season before we started training again. Call me when you're ready, I said. Let me know when you want me to see you. I'm ready. I'll see you tomorrow, he answered. Time to get out of hell. It was a trip he'd made so many times at the start of every season. He understood nothing was promised. There were no guarantees he'd be as good or better than the season before. Everything he did, all the success he worked for and earned it. So as one season ended and the next approached, he knew what to expect and what to demand of himself. He didn't fear the annual hell that awaited because every trip back made him tougher, stronger, more resilient. That was his power. Your first trip to hell is terrifying. By the second or third visit, you know what to expect, what has to be done. Resilience isn't built in your comfort zone. It's built in hell. And every time you go back, you're a little harder, rougher, less emotional, more scared, more scarred. After you've made the journey repeatedly for years and decades, you barely feel the heat. But his teammates did, as they faced an even fiercer MJ when they all returned the following season for the start of another run of greatness that began with the legendary 72-10 season and ended with 3 more rings. Everyone come into practice happy and relaxed until hell walked through the door, disguised as Michael Jordan, demanding, intimidating, cruel, driven beyond measure. And if you had a problem with that, as he said in The Last Dance, you never won again. His teammates will tell you without hesitation that he was indeed hell to play with, but he took every one of them to paradise. Athletes and celebrities, even some CEOs and business owners, experience the journey in public. Most people don't. That endless ride between paradise and hell happens in private, where no one knows or understands what you're dealing with. Everyone is going through something you know nothing about. Pressure, mental and physical pain, self-doubt, sacrifice. The grind never stops. It's the business owner who has to lay off half her staff to keep the company afloat. The parents who aren't sure they can cover the bills. It's the uncertainty about whether you made the right career choice or whether your relationship is worth keeping. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and wondering if you'll ever be enough. For some, it's working for horrible boss, dealing with health issues, dealing with the difficult family issues. I don't think there's a lonelier experience than looking for answers, finding none, and realizing you're at the crossroads of your life. Either you fight your way out of hell you're in, or start accepting that you'll be there forever. Your business has its best month ever, and on the first of the next month, you're back to zero, back to do it all over again, this time with higher expectations. And if you're the leader of that business, you have to get to the entire team to keep taking that trip with you as well, and not exhale along the way. Winning waits to see what you'll do. It doesn't care about being fair, doesn't care about your talent or skill or how hard you worked. It just wants you to figure it out and fight for it. If it makes you feel any better, you'll have a lot more company in hell than you will at the top. Hell is where most people stay, because unpleasant as it may be, for many it's easier to settle there than to try and battle their way out, and everyone there can relate to each other's troubles. Weight, finances, relationships, careers. Hell is packed with folks who are struggling with the same issues. So many, in fact, that it starts to feel right. Normal. You fit right in. But you're still in hell, and without a decisive plan to escape, that's where you're going to remain. For some, hell is about hard work and endless battle to improve. But for others, hell is the chilling realization that they're stuck and they'll probably stay that way. People will tell you, just push through it, as if there's one-way door to winning that swings wide open. Pushing isn't enough. It's an unimaginative and predictable. You pushed, and then what? To get out of your own personal hell, you have to be able to pull, grab, reach, climb, slither, jump, dig, claw your way to freedom. Remember MJ's words in The Last Dance? I pulled people along when they didn't want to be pulled. Most people give a little push and then find themselves in a revolving door just goes around and around and around. Winning sets unreasonable goals and requires you to bear the burden of responsibility for achieving them. That means doing anything and everything possible to get out of the situation you're in and into the position to win. You can pay the price of winning and succeed, or you can quit, stay where you are, and pay the price of regret. Winning will use every dirty trick in the book and make up new ones just to entertain itself, to keep you in hell. It's too hard, it whispers. You'll never get there. Your parents don't believe in you. Your friends think you're crazy. Look at you. You're already a failure. Which, by no coincidence, is exactly what you were already thinking. So you stay there, waiting to feel different, waiting to be told what to do, waiting for an answer that never comes. And meanwhile, the flames are getting hotter and hotter until you can't take it. You have to take action or you burn out. But instead of being propelled by the heat, you can become frozen where you are. You have to embrace the negativity, the criticism, so you can control how that fire burns. Fire can destroy, but it can also forge new creations. The more you can withstand and the sooner you can take action, the greater chances you'll get at having back in the race. For some, it's all too much to deal with. They do nothing, and eventually winning gives up on them entirely and moves on. If you don't want more for yourself, that's fine. Someone else will get the win. Instead, your hell becomes never knowing what could have been, never having more or doing more for yourself. That's the hell of complacency, the hell of average. It's quiet. There's no rage or fire, just the silent hell of nothingness. For others, hell is the result of choices. These people chose a path that looked like winning and got everything they wanted, but realized too late that they hated the path they chose. That's the player who takes the big contract but ends up on a losing team. The CEO with a successful business who hates what he does. The relationship that fails because you chose the wrong partner. That's the hell of wanting and needing something different. Often, that's when winning walks away from you. I gave you an opportunity and you blew it. It may allow you back through some other endeavor, but not that one. Sorry, we're closed. For now, back to hell for more time to make the transition. For many, that kind of disappointment and failure is a hard stop. For the greats, it's a start of a new race. When winning took Kobe's Achilles and his dreams of a 6th and 7th ring, he had to go win something else. It wasn't enough to win the Oscar and write bestsellers and create films. He was revolutionizing girls' basketball team with his daughter Gianna, teaching her and her team how to win the Mamba way. While most kids that age practice for 45 minutes and then a snack, Kobe held 3-hour practices with 2.5 hours devoted just to defense. He couldn't stop finding ways to win, but not all athletes are able to transfer their competitive drive into new things to chase once their careers reach an expiration date. I'm not talking about pro athletes who have made millions and if they manage their money can ride out for a while on their investments and their fame. Think about Olympians who make that endless round trip from hell to winning every 4 years if they do everything right. They might only get there once, and then what? The rarest of Olympians, Michael Phelps or Simone Biles, for example, might have a career as a spokesperson or a speaker or a broadcaster, but if you're an archer or bobsledder or pole vaulter, what's next for that athlete? You can be the greatest marksman in the world, and now what? Professional sniper? You've trained since you were 10 to be the best in the world, and now you have to be an instructor at the shooting range and you can't even afford the bullets. That's your hell unless you can find the next win for yourself. I see it in my business all the time with trainers who managed to work with one famous player and thought it would give them a permanent ticket to winning. A year later, they're selling gym equipment in the mall, wondering what happened. There are wins everywhere. It's on you to keep finding them. Everyone has been through something difficult or painful or challenging that changed them forever. We may not know it at the time, but those are the situations that break something inside of us and can never be rebuilt the same way. That's not a weakness. It's your greatness. It's your greatest strength and your ticket out of hell. How do you build muscle? You tear it down and it heals stronger. How do you create a scar? You suffer damage and it heals stronger. Scar tissue is one of the strongest things your body can manufacture. How do you get back to paradise after going through hell? You rebuild yourself into something stronger. Not the same as you were, stronger than before. This isn't about picking up pieces and putting them back together. Try that sometime with something you broke. A dish, a toy, a mirror. You take all those broken pieces and try to put them back together like nothing happened. But something did happen, and you can't undo that kind of damage. You don't pick up the pieces. The pieces have to pick you up, and they decide how you need to be rebuilt. You won't be the same as you were. You'll be stronger because those broken pieces are bringing experience and pain and grief and using all of it for fuel. Not everyone will like how you've become reassembled. They see something different. They say you've changed, and they're right. To grow your mind, heart, body, spirituality, you must first accept all of your wounds. Welcome them, embrace them. Now you're resilient as you continue your chase. You can't hurt because whatever your opponents do to you, you've already felt it.